Hello, hello everyone, and how are you? We are back for another episode of the Wired for Success show with my colleague Steve Costello and myself, Patience Modevi, and we are here to support young people and parents into improving not only their relationship but their life prospect. And today we have something very special for you guys. We are going to talk about mental health first aid kit. So it's got nothing to do with something that is going to be, what do you call it? Tangible. It's not tangible. It's not concrete. It's gonna be abstract. So you're not gonna have an actual case that we're going to give you, but you're gonna go with leave us with a luggage of tools that you can use and exercise that you can use in terms of a mental health first aid kit.
Cool. Well, hello everybody. Well, what is mental health first aid? It sounds like you can put a band-aid on something and everything will be good. There, it's better, but it doesn't always work quite like that. I remember when I first did some training on mental health first aid. It wasn't called that then, so I'm kind of giving a few things away by right now about how long ago. It wasn't called mental health first aid, but it was the same thing. And one of the things that came up first and foremost was listen, because listening is essential. We've got to listen to other people to be able to help them. We've got to listen to ourselves. What's going on in here? What's going on in here? We need to be listening to what's happening. And I think a good example of that is Patience and I this morning have been talking a little bit about the troubles, inverted commas, in France. And the troubles started apparently because a young man was shot by a police officer. And that started rioting, and that started all kinds of crazy things, a big stream of events. But what we were talking about was perhaps the problem wasn't the shooting just exploded the whole thing. Perhaps the problem was something that's been going on in the community. Perhaps the problem was that the community, young people in the community, are never listened to. Perhaps nobody's hearing what their challenges and problems are. Perhaps they feel discriminated against. Who knows? We don't know unless we listen. There's a lot of possibilities, and we could throw some educated
Mhm.
guesses. But if we're not hearing, we're not able to help. So that has got to be the first port of call on our mental health first aid kit, listening. Now, interestingly, I've written this in posts of late in on various social media sites. If you take the word listen, listen, and change the letters around, you get another word which is really useful, and that's silent. Because when we're listening, we need to be silent. When we're listening, we don't want to be formulating a response. It's easy to do that. We all do it at some point. I know I do it sometimes. But when we're
Mm.
listening, we don't want to be formulating a response. We need to be completely blank in a sense so that we can hear what's coming in. We need to be silent. So that's the starting point. So Patience, how are you feeling on this?
Yes, I believe that those two are really important. I think it's really important in terms of the support system that you have next to you, as well as your own self as the individual. So, what do I mean by that? I mean that if you are going to see somebody or if you are going to talk to someone, you want to have that kind of exchange where there's a silence and where there's some listening. Um, this listening is going to be a little bit more active in the sense where the person is really going to get everything that you want to say. And sometimes, even though we use the words do not say everything that we want to say. But when the other party is silent, and they are listening to you. They're not just listening to the words, they're looking at you in terms of how you're looking, they're looking at your gesture, they're sensing the tone in which you are also talking. All of this is making it a little bit more, um, I wouldn't say easier, but I would say that it pacifies the communication, and it makes it that the person can then respond to you in the right way. And then when you are doing it individually, is that when we stay in silence, we get to hear everything. So it might sound weird as I'm saying it like that, but it's true. So basically, as you stay in silence, you are more in tune with, first of all, your own feelings, where you are feeling this pain. So this pain might be a pain that is coming, like we say, from the mind, but it will manifest somewhere in your body. It might be a pain in the back, on the shoulder. It might be a sore throat, or something like that. So you are more in intuition with that, and all of this will help you understand, first of all, where you are, and then when it's released, it will let you understand as well that it is released or let go of.
Let's think about talking. So we've talked about listening a little bit. Okay, we haven't done it a great deal of justice in under 7 minutes, but we've
Yes.
given enough. So talking. I can think of a couple of clients from recent weeks in particular who have told me they don't really have anybody to talk to. Not about the big stuff, not about the stuff that matters, not about the stuff that may make them feel that they're a little bit weak because they need to talk about certain things. They think that some of the things they need to talk about are kind of a little bit taboo. They don't want to show that they have some weakness going on. Therefore, they stay. What do? They stay quiet. And what happens when we as individuals stay quiet? Just think about that for a minute. Something's bothering you, bugging you. It's kind of gnawing away at your head, and you don't talk about it. What happens? It kind of gets worse, doesn't it? As patience is showing, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So we need to find a way of talking. Now, in the UK, we've got something, for example, we've got Samaritans, fantastic organization. You can call the Samaritans and say, hey, I'm not happy, and talk to somebody who cares, who wants to hear your story. They won't tell you how to fix it. That's not what they're there for. They're there to listen, really. But they can signpost, so they can direct you somewhere else. So that's around in the UK, and other European countries have similar things in place. So there's always somebody you can go to if you don't have somebody locally. But ideally, we want to find a buddy, somebody we can share with, somebody we can talk to. It, it may not be your partner. It may not be somebody really close to you. It may be somebody who's a little bit more distant. Sometimes it's easier to share things with people you don't know. So have a good think about it. But the important thing is not to keep it in there, because if you do that, it's going to get bigger. So that's another essential tool in the first aid kit. Find some way of sharing what you're feeling. Now, on the other side of the fence, you're the person who can help people, and we can all help people. You don't need a fantastic qualification to be able to do that. So if you're on the other side of the fence, do what Patience said. Look at them. Look at the person you think may have a challenge. Watch their body language. Watch their manner, their attitude. Are they suddenly angry for no apparent reason? Are they very quiet for no apparent reason and it's not normal to their character? Observe what's going on. And don't be afraid to ask some gentle questions. Now, you may find that they don't want to answer your gentle questions, not right now at least. But if you ask the questions, you're showing that you're interested. If you're showing that you're interested, they know that, they log that. They might not want it right here and now, but they might want it tomorrow or the next day. So think about that. Think about that, that you're the person on that side of the fence delivering the first aid. Because we can all deliver mental health first aid, all of us. You don't need to be a therapist or highly qualified in counseling or coaching or neuro-linguistic programming or whatever. You don't need any of that stuff. You need to be able to listen, to watch. We're all human. We need to interact as human. That's helpful in the beginning.
Yeah.
That's enough for me for a minute. Patience.
I think one thing that is amazing. So the mental health first aid, or the kit, of what we are sharing right now, is for when you find that something's happened, or there's an incident. So you come to a point where you feel like, oh, I need those tools to work with. The idea as well is to, obviously, our mind is like a muscle. We need to also train it to understand ourselves, to understand our triggers, to understand what makes us go in a certain way, and to understand where we are at, basically. Often, what we do, generally, everybody does that, is we wait until it's gone to the I can't deal with it anymore, and boom, we kind of like explode. The idea is to have a way of implementing, not implementing, but putting like little things in your daily life that you can use to help you manage that muscle, if I can say it like that, the mind muscle. As in, for example, using mindfulness on a daily basis, or even slowing down. Like Steve was talking about, the silence is something that needs to be cultivated. Like, you need to be trained in silence because we live in a world of noise, 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 and having silence now is become abnormal. So, maybe making that normal in your life again. So those are little tools that you can use, to bring this kind of like well-being, mental well-being in your life every day.
Brilliant. So, how are you today? We
I'm good.
ask. Yeah, patience is good. That's brilliant. And I've got a sense that she's telling the truth because we've spent some time together before this live. But how often does somebody say to you, "Hey, how are you doing?" And you say, "I'm great, thanks." But really, you're not. Really, you're answering on automatic pilot. You don't want to offend somebody by saying, "Actually, I don't feel too good." Or, "Actually, my head's driving me nuts. There's all these thoughts and I don't know how to deal with them." We're not very good at saying things like that. Some of us may be good at it. Some of us may have had some practice. But how often, let's be honest, do you not tell the truth? Even in the French language, they do it.
Mhm.
Somebody will say, "How are you?" And somebody will reply with, "Not bad."
Yeah.
And my neighbor did that not too long ago. And "not bad" wasn't true because he wasn't very well at that particular time. But he said "not bad" because he didn't want to bother me. He didn't want to tell me about his woes. Sometimes we don't want to share our woes, especially if we've got a little illness, we might not want to share that, but sometimes it's necessary. So we need to think about that. So, no automatic pilots with our mental health because it's not helpful. We fall into these habitual responses that really don't serve us.
Yeah.
So, we need to think clearly about those. So, there's another one. The thing is with mental health first aid, there's a lot of tools and tips that we can share. There are hundreds, but the most important one is the silence one that we mentioned a few times. If we can listen, if we can observe, let's use mindfulness, no judgment. It's hard, isn't it? Judgment. Good grief. We're brought up to judge everything that happens in our lives pretty much. We start judging from almost as soon as we can talk. That's good, that's bad. Don't like this, don't like that. So it's hardly surprising that we drop judgments occasionally, but we can use mindfulness to learn how to be non-judgmental. We can use our breathing to control a fantastic array of things. And I'll give you
Mm,
an example. I was out on my mountain bike yesterday, and there'd been a very heavy, short, heavy thunderstorm before I went out on the bike. And where I live is the ground is very hard, and when it's wet, it's got like a red clay.
mm,
When that gets on mountain, tires grow considerably. It also means that tires have no grip, so it can be interesting if you're going up something steep, as I was yesterday. So what did I do when that happened yesterday? I could have got frustrated. I could have even fallen off because it really was quite difficult. But no, I stopped the bike, got off the bike, and thought, I can't ride this. There was just too much mud on the wheels. So I pushed the bike up the hill, got to the top of the hill, and stopped and looked out over the view. So I'm quite high at this point, over 700 meters. And I just stopped and looked at the view. And I found a few thoughts trickling into my head. I didn't want them. So I focused on my breathing. I did that for about not long, 20 seconds, 30 seconds maybe.
mm.
Then I really saw the view, all of it. I wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't labeling the trees greener over there than they were over there or anything like that. I just saw the view and it felt fantastic. I didn't care about the tires on the bike anymore. But when I did get to the very top of the hill, I just jumped on the bike and rode down a hard surface and the mud went flying everywhere. So that was okay. But just pausing, taking a breath, noticing makes a big difference. And that's a good tool in mental health first aid as well.
Mhm.
Take a breath, pause, just allow the breath to be what it is. Don't judge it, just let it be. And that's powerful. Now, a lot of people need help with that. As I said, judgment starts way back. So if you do need help, don't hesitate to message Patience or I, and we will be happy to help you. Thank you.
That's right. That's right. As Steve said, there's so many more um, tools that we could share with you. Unfortunately, we don't have all these minutes to share them with you right now. But if you need support in this area, don't hesitate to contact us. Steve and myself's contacts are into the content, the text of the in the description. If you need anything, you can just email. If you want to make any comments or you want us to maybe develop a little bit more on this, just write it down and we will be happy to do so. So we've gone again a little bit more than the time, but that's fine. We always want to share more with you. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for anyone who's going to watch the replay and everything. And we will see you next week. You take care, guys.
Take care. Speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.